Opinions and ideas expressed in the following Moraine Valley Broadcast Channel recording are those of its creators and do not represent the views of Moraine Valley Community College.
Welcome to all of our listeners. This is episode 30 of That Made Me Laugh. I'm Barrett, here with
Colin,
Radi,
and Marcell.
And we're here to talk about our selections for our comedic film. First off, I had a man named Kyle Mooney who started his fame from YouTube. He started with a group called Good Neighbor Stuff. They have a couple planned videos, and he also has his own videos that are spontaneous interviews on the street. I grew up watching this stuff with my friends in grade school and high school. So all these basically my friends for life, and we use this stuff all the time, even though we went to different colleges. And so when we hang out, this is just a way to like get back to like where we were. So
my own opinion on Kyle is I found him to be pretty funny with his random interviews with just random people, but then with his sketches and when they started planning things, I could tell his talent seemed to drop off for a moment. So I did enjoy him in the beginning, but he kind of didn't really do it for me with his later episodes. What did you?
Yeah, watching Kyle was actually pretty funny. The things that he would do on the street is something, you just don't see every day. He'd be doing his best to try to get some reactions, and the way he'd approach people was actually hilarious. A couple of his skits were actually funny too, like when it showed the first time they got drunk, and just the way they were talking and their voices, the way they made it sound was actually pretty hilarious as well.
What I thought of Kyle was that I thought it was very interesting how he would just ask random questions to strangers throughout the park. I thought it was very interesting that I thought it was very funny that all the people would just they wouldn't know what to say. They think of his question as blank out, and then they'd go. Some people wouldn't even hear what he asked, so they'd go and ask again. He'd just come up with a whole different question. So he didn't have a certain question. He'd just go around just trying to make people laugh.
yeah, I hear what you guys are saying. I understand the some of the choreographed ones couldn't have been so great. They're pretty corny, and you really got to have a dry sense of humor for them. But his other ones are just his interviews. It's based on a reaction from the people that he's interviewing, and he gets some really dumb responses that are pretty funny. And next we have Colin's selection.
Yeah. My selection is ÖSoviet WombleÖ. He's from YouTube, and unlike all of my other friends here, he plays video games, so all of his comedic sketches are games instead of live action or people. One of the reasons I really like ÖSoviet WombleÖ is because not only can he get funny, stupid humor, but there's also many serious, dark, and even crude stuff they joke about, and it really just throws the whole scale in perspective. And another thing is because, unlike live action, he can put on subtitles, and it adds a whole nother layer to the video where you can actually see when someone's talking and follow what they're saying as the subtitles move. That's something I really enjoy.
Watching Soviet's channel was actually pretty funny. Just the comments he was saying during the gameplay, just like watching the connection he had with his friends and the way they could get away with the stuff that they were saying to each other was really entertaining to watch. As far as their content and how they were playing the game was funny, like when they were racing to a finish line, crawling, one of them ends up getting killed, and just like the reaction to that was hilarious. Just honestly, with his channel and the way he was talking was just funny. The vibe that he had with him and his friends.
Alright, what I thought of Colin's choice was that the very funny part about it was that it's a bunch of guys just hanging out, playing the game, and it's like they're not focused at all on the game. It's a shooting game and all that, but they're focused more on just making jokes, making each other laugh. What I thought was interesting was that they would constantly insult each other, call each other names, swear at each other and everything, but through all that, they never once got offended because of how good of friends they were.
Yeah, I thought it was some funny stuff that ÖSoviet had on his channel. It just got pretty chaotic at some points. It was pretty crazy that he was in a chapel and they threw a grenade at I think it was the priest, and the priest didn't die. He just got right back up 5 seconds later. About a minute later, a guy is being seen shot about 150 times, and I guess there was a glitch in the game, and he didn't die either. It was pretty funny. They spent about 2 minutes just shooting him. But how chaotic it got between all the people that were talking to each other, over each other, and everything. Ultimately, I feel like he's a YouTube channel, and he's trying to produce something for listeners and viewers. So it gets really chaotic at points, and if we were doing that to each other right now, I know that it wouldn't be the greatest thing to listen to.
Yeah, that's one thing he does do is with the subtitles is when so many people are talking, because he usually plays with up to 6 people, and with 4 of us here now, we each have to be super quiet just to hear each other. And it just gets so hectic and chaotic in his videos that I find it just hilarious. And I know it doesn't fit for everybody, but luckily everyone here loved his videos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I really don't have much more to say. Radi?
As far as the selection that I've made was the movie Friday. I feel like, Friday is honestly one of my favorite movies. That movie had about everything in there, where they had drugs, fights, and if you're just into that type of action, then you're going to enjoy the movie Friday. The characters that they picked, I felt like were perfect, because you had somebody like Ice Cube, who's just really serious, and then you get a character like Chris Tucker, who played Smokey in the movie, who was just outgoing and immature and always found himself in trouble, and then would put everybody around him in trouble, including Ice Cube. Just the way you would see a drug dealer who Smokey was messing with dress up as a lady just to hide his gangster image, was honestly really funny. And yeah.
Just as Radi said, I think the choice of the actors was perfect. I think by choosing a stand-up comedian like Chris Tucker was a very good choice for them to do. I think it's the type of movie you can watch over and over and still get the same laugh every single time, because I've watched it plenty of times, and every single time I've had the same laugh. What I think is very funny about it is the whole bully situation with you just have this big guy just bullying the whole neighborhood, gets to pick on everybody, take everybody's jewelry, take all their money, everything. Another thing I thought was funny was the pastor scene, where you would expect one thing from a pastor, expect him not to do something, but in the movie we see a pastor enter into a woman's house, and then later on comes running out without his clothes on. So we could assume what's happening there.
Yeah, I enjoyed Friday a lot. It was a great movie, I thought. I only seen a little bit of it before once, and to watch it in its entirety this time was great. I thought the thing that stuck out most to me was the dynamics of his parents, and his dad, when he came into the picture right away, he was just trying to find some milk in the fridge, and his dad pops up right as he closes the door, and you can tell it's not going to be the best scene for him, and he gets a huge lecture from his dad. His dad's trying to keep him in line, and I can kind of relate to that. My dad's the same way, but you see with his mom that she kind of relates to him in a different way, and she understands him a little bit better, because she knows what's going on outside and his with his friends and stuff like that. And even though he said he didn't smoke, his mom sees Smokey, calls him Smokey, but she obviously doesn't. She doesn't like that he's hanging out with him too much, because she slams the door right away after. But
my only problem with Friday is I've seen it once before, and I have to disagree with you, Marcus, because after watching it, I couldn't laugh as hard as I did the first time, because I knew all the jokes were coming and all the punchlines. Though I did enjoy the movie, my favorite part is Debo, the bully you were talking about. He's just this mountain of a man, and everybody's scared of him, and he rides around the neighborhood on this little bike. It's just hilarious. Anytime someone messes with him, he'll just deck them right off their feet, and it shows just how big and strong he is. And then he'll get right back on his bike and ride away. That was just the funniest thing ever to me.
And just to go back to what Barrett was saying about his family, you could just see, like, they weren't at all serious, because whenever Ice Cube's dad would want to call him, his dad would be in the toilet taking a shit or something, and the conversation wouldn't be as serious as...
Yeah, right.
But as far as the movie Friday, I feel like it was a really funny movie, and it was something I could really talk about.
All right, my choice was a stand-up comedian named Sebastian. He was born in Chicago. He started his stand-up comedian days in a bowling alley in Chicago. He would later on move to California in 2005, and every Friday he would perform at different places every week. And then he became so good that one corporation just signed him, and ever since then he's been at this business. What I think is very interesting is that he's very active in his shows. He gives examples when he tells his jokes. He's always moving around, and what I think is funny is that he uses everyday things that just get on people's nerves, and he uses them he turns them around into jokes, like how in one episode I thought it was very interesting how in the Chipotle scene he just talks about how slow the workers are and all that, and then how people can be assholes in like the airport and the train stations and all that.
Yeah,
and
so...
go ahead.
I thought Sebastian was really funny. I think the one thing that stood out the most is he was really proud of his Italian heritage. I believe it was Italian. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. When you're doing a stand-up scene, you really gotta deliver it so people can get an image of what you're trying to say and what you're trying to portray. And he uses a word I thought that was really funny. Like you said, he talks about some normal everyday things. It's just a mouse that happened to be in his house.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about how his dad put some antifreeze on bologna, and he's instead of just it's like I don't know, extinction of the rat, or just getting rid of it. He goes we're gonna murder that motherfucker. So his delivery is pretty great.
Yeah, definitely.
His eyes
Especially
are
with the
always
accent.
wide open. Yeah, he delivers it well.
I actually really enjoyed Sebastian. Like all you said, he's very active in his comedy skets, which is something I personally very much enjoy. Because I can watch a comedian just stand there and make jokes. It's funny. But when they're moving around and acting with the story they're saying, it adds a whole nother level to it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, and just going off what Colin was saying, I enjoyed his skits as well too, with different movement and gesture types that he'd have while he was performing. He would really get into the stuff that he was saying, and you not only when he's telling a picture or telling a story, you honestly get the picture of like what's going on and just how really entertaining he was.
Yeah, and to finish it up for Sebastian, I think it's like what everybody said. His facial expressions, his accent helps him out a lot. What I think was very interesting is that he brings the same energy every single time, and he comes out with funnier stuff as he goes along.
I'm going to jump back in here real quick. I do enjoy Sebastian, as I said. And one of the funniest jokes I heard is when he was talking about a homeless guy. And the first homeless guy he met, he gave money to because he had good posture, made eye contact. And then he goes on to say how the next homeless guy he met fell out of a bush, looked like it was on drugs, and had his hand out with a freaky look face on it. He's like, no, you have 24 hours a day to practice this. You should have a better presentation. And it just killed me. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Sebastian. I mean, he's very underrated. I haven't heard of him until Mark has said something.
Yeah, I actually learned about it my senior year in high school last year.
Yeah. Now it's something I definitely want to go watch more of.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for episode 30. Thank you for listening.